is Gene. You guys are watching Lubed for February the 20th, is it? Did I get this right or did I not change it? No, I didn't change it. February 22nd, 2024. Um, yeah, I didn't get the right date switched up, so it still says the sugarcane logo. I guess I didn't update it. I know I did try to update it, but I didn't. I do apologize, so I won't even bother putting up that banner. But what an amazing game that the Edmonton Oilers and the Boston Bruins had. Would this not be the ideal Stanley Cup Final? Like, it had everything that I wanted in a hockey game with exception to the result. Obviously, the Oilers did lose in overtime. What a game, though. What a game. I would love to see this in the Stanley Cup Final. This would be so good. So we're going to recap that tonight. We're also going to take a look at the current Western Conference standings. And it's starting to pile up. It's starting to pile up. So a few weeks ago, I was saying it looks like Edmonton was going to play Vegas as almost like a sure thing. There's a lot that can change between now and the end of the season. So we're going to get into that a little bit. We're also going to do an episode of troubleshooting tonight. And I'm going to basically discuss something that I dug up when it came to statistical findings. Yeah, I won't even bother explaining it now. I'm going to just explain it when we get into that. And then we got two games tomorrow night against the Wild and Saturday night, game number 3 of 4 against the Calgary Flames. First two obviously went Edmonton's way. We'll see if it continues to go their way. And that means I will be doing an episode on Sunday to recap both of those games. So let's get right into this as we witnessed one hell of a game between the Edmonton Oilers and the Boston Bruins. It was honestly a treat. It was such a treat. There was times in that game I was getting mad when it got to a point of being 4-1. I'm like, oh, okay, that's how it is. And the Oilers, I think, had a bit of a lesson last night. They realized how the big boys really do play, and they play tough, man. Boston's fast and hard on pucks, and that first period, Boston was really taking it to the Oilers, and then in the second period, really took it to them, and then the Oilers, again with their typical tradition, third period rally, got back into it very quickly. So let's get into the scoring summary, as it started off with Morgan Geekie on the power play from Mason Lohrei and Charlie Coyle. It would be a 1-0 game. That was at 2:34, and at 11:40, Warren Foegele would tie it. Obviously, he got bumped up to the McDavid line because Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was out with the flu. And he took advantage of it because he had a hell of a night. And that was from Connor McDavid at 11:40. But when you have a guy named Connor McDavid on your line, it's easy to do things. So, just saying. We go to the second period and it became the Boston Bruins show. And just before the game, Louis DeBrusk, Sportsnet color commentator, and former NHLer and former Edmonton Oiler, and also father of Jake DeBrusk, who plays on the Boston Bruins, put out a ticket that he had from Jake DeBrusk when he was a youngster, saying that he would get something like 2 goals or 3 points or something like that along those lines, or he would have to do 30 push-ups. Well, Jake DeBrusk came through that night, and he didn't have to do the push-ups because he had a great night. It would start the second period with Brad Marchment, 26th of the year from Dayton Heinen and Mason Lohrei. Trent Frederick would get his 16th of the year from Jasper Boquist and Charlie McAvoy. That's at 4:40. And that was Jake DeBrusk's first goal of the night. Or actually the only goal of the night, but he was very prominent, I think, in other aspects of the game. He had a real good game. And this would be from Pasternak and Parker Witherspoon. Right now, it's the game starting to run away from the Edmonton Oilers. It's a 4-1 game and not looking good. Warren Fogle would get one in the second period to make it 4-2, but I'm not convinced the Oilers are going to have a good game in this one. But they did. They end up turning it around, and Corey Perry, I think, was one of the main reasons why they turned it around. Is he knew the Oilers were losing. He did his part. The 37-year-old got into a fight, started mixing it up, got the energy going a little bit, got the Oilers playing on a little bit on a higher tier. When the oldest player on your team starts a fight, you know that, hey, it's time to go, right? Like, let's not quit. Let's go. Then it'd be Matthias Janmark from Cody Ceci. Corey Perry getting a goal from Darnell Nurse and Cody Ceci. So Ceci was quite a player tonight as well, or last night. And then David Pasternak would get one to make it 5-4. So the Oilers would rally there. They would make it 4-4. Pasternak would make it 5-4. And the Oilers would rally once more as Zach Hyman would close it out, salvaging the Oilers a point as they went to overtime. That was from Matthias Ekholm and Connor McDavid at 13:23. And in overtime, in the 3-on-3, Charlie McAvoy from Jake DeBrusk and Pavel Zaku. And it turns out to be a 6-5 hockey game. Now, there was a lot of goals. There's no question. But it was a good game. And I do believe it was a bit of a lesson learned for the Edmonton Oilers of really how to really ramp up your intensity and start playing playoff hockey. I think they needed that game. I think they needed to see to get the feel and see the intensity, because Boston has been an intense group for years. They don't let up off the pedal. They're a hard team to play. So yeah, it was good. Let's get into all the stats here. As the Oilers outshot the Bruins 42-36. I added in hits here. I think this is a good stat to have because it really tells you how much of an effort there is from both sides. And the Boston Bruins out-hit the Oilers, the Oilers out-hit the Boston Bruins 32-23. So there was definitely a lot more hitting on the Oilers' part. So that was a good thing to see. That means the intensity was a little bit ramped up. And I think most of that came in the third period. I think right after that Corey fight, that's when they were starting to hit everything in sight. Giveaways, 16-14 for the Oilers. So Oilers still giving the puck away a little bit more than their opponent. Power plays. This is something that is starting to concern me because the Oilers not only had the number one power play last year, but blew out any potential second place right out of the water. They didn't get a single power play goal on 3 attempts. And credit to Boston's PK, because Boston is very stingy, as I did in the pregame about Boston Bruins and how stingy they are with goals against. But still, I mean, they had 3 attempts, and this was the best power play in NHL history last year. Kind of concerning right now. Penalty kill, we were 1 for 2. So Boston had 2 power play opportunities, make good on 1. That to me is another concerning stat too, considering during that streak, their penalty kill was almost flawless. Face-off win percentage, the Bruins owned the dot a little bit more, beating the Oilers by a count of 52.1%. And goals against average and save percentage, Skinner, 6 goals, 30 saves, and .833. So he keeps on dipping a little bit worse and a little bit worse. Now, that's not all his fault. When I get into troubleshooting, I'm going to explain one of the reasons why this is happening. And yeah, not exactly the greatest thing. So my 3 stars, I initially had it as, like, for me, you got to remember, this is my personal picks. So I initially had Corey Perry as the first star because I think he was the spark that the team needed and ignited it. And he could very well arguably be the first star. But because Fogle had such a good night, I think, and statistically wise, he was really, really a factor. I gave him the first star. Corey Perry, of course, the second star, and Zach Hyman, the third star for tying it at such a clutch time. And yeah, well, we'll go with that. I have no problem with using those as my picks. And up next is the Minnesota Wild tomorrow night at the Rogers Place, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time for you fine folks in Edmonton, Alberta. Okay. So what does that mean for the standings? Right now, I thought I would throw in an episode of the standings or add the standings into this episode because it is quite the jam up here. If you take a look, I'm going to just bring it up on my board here. Just 1 second here. It's a little small to see on my actual screen here. So I'm going to bring that up. Conference. Let's go wild card. Okay, so as you can see, the Central Division has, now I hope it hasn't updated anything since I did that clip on the video that you see, but I got Dallas Stars with 76 points, Colorado Avalanche with 75, Winnipeg Jets with 73 in the Central. In the Pacific, you got the Vancouver Canucks absolutely killing it and crushing it with 80 points. Vegas Golden Knights with 70 points, and then the Oilers with 68. Now, we're more concerned about the Pacific and what's going on in the Pacific. Right behind the Edmonton Oilers is the Los Angeles Kings. They have 1 game in hand, but they're also 2 points back of the Oilers, which a few weeks ago, they were actually quite a bit ahead of the LA Kings. So they've started picking up the pace. So that could switch things up. I had it all planned out that it was going to be Vegas, Edmonton, but Edmonton could eventually maybe get bumped down into that 4th wildcard spot, which means they would end up playing Dallas Stars if Vancouver keeps going the way they're going. And that could be an interesting matchup. Right now, it could be anything. Like, it could be, they could play St. Louis is still in the mix. Nashville is still in the mix. I would say Minnesota's still there. Seattle and Calgary's slipping out, but they're still in there. So it's going to be an interesting month and a half, essentially, and that's when the playoff starts. So we'll see what happens and what the Oilers can do and where they'll end up winding up. But like I said, like literally 2 weeks ago, I had them already pegged to take on the Vegas Golden Knights. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, how this plays out. The forever changing landscape of the NHL. It's awesome. Love it. Let's go into troubleshooting. And like I said, on this episode, I am going to troubleshoot. It was almost turning into like a numbers thing because it was, and I didn't want to do a numbers thing because numbers deals with numbers. And I was going to post all these numbers on there. I didn't want to do it. But what I noticed very significantly, let's get into it. Let's get into it, and then I'll discuss it.
Swagger down the street with your red lips and funky beat. You better hold your head up to the sky. I'm gonna roll with you till the day I die.
I don't know why it does that, but it does. Okay. So the need for blocking by the Edmonton Oilers is something that needs to be addressed. I did a little statistical breakdown. I took it from October 11th to November 11th when Woody got fired, basically. December 21st to January 27th, the streak. And then from February 6th to present time right now. So I kind of broke it down into 3 different categories and columns. I'm going to try to back out a little bit here so I don't look so. Okay. The need for a shot blocking D-man is immense. And just to kind of break down kind of the numbers that we're getting for our shot blockers presently. Let me just pull up the trade targets that are available. Darnell Nurse currently has 126 blocked shots. Cody Ceci at 77, Desharnais at 75, Evan Bouchard at 73, Matthias Ekholm at 61, and Brett Kulak at 51. Both the two defensemen that you see on the screen, Tanev and Savard. Tanev leads the league, leads right now. I think he might even lead the league in block shots at 162. He is currently 28th on the all-time list of block shots. Savard, 49th overall in the all-time list of block shots. He's currently at 98. I honestly think if we can somehow manage to get both of these players, it would be good. Because in the first little segment between when Woody was on and when Woody got fired, they were 32nd in the league for block shots. During their streak, you think it would have improved? It did, but not by much. 28th in the league. And during this last stretch, it has improved down to 17. But if I'm looking at this right now, throughout the season, they're averaging probably 26th, 27th in the league for block shots. Not a good number to have. And if these guys are available, and they are, it might be a consideration for the Oilers to go after them. Now, I know I said I was all gung-ho on Fleury, but some stuff has come up in light of that since we last spoke. And one of them is, it sounds like Fleury is going to lift his no-movement clause to one team, but it's not the Oilers. It's the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Jake Gunzel, that was another guy that the Oilers were going to go after. Price would be very, very steep. He'd be a rental, probably not re-sign here. And he's injured. So what does that leave us now with? It leaves us with maybe Tanev. We could still maybe look at a goaltender. But I looked at what they could bring to the table, the available goaltenders, and they're kind of way up there in the list. They're not really something that's going to save us. So right now, I think the best bet, if Fleury is not going to be available, is to take on a guy like Tanev, hopefully, first and foremost. But I know there's going to be teams after him. And also Mark Savard, I think, would be a good fit to help clean up the block shots. Because right now, they're not blocking enough. It's as simple as that. We need another guy like Chris Russell, who ranks third in all-time, or Duncan Keith, who ranks fourth. You remember those names? Those guys blocked a lot of shots for us. Duncan Keith, not so much in his years as an Oiler, but as a Blackhawk, he was quite the impressive player when it came to the block shots. So that, to me, is where I think we need to focus our troubleshooting. It's one of the things that has been a constant, hasn't fluctuated with the up and down roller coaster season that the Oilers have been having. It's the block shots. They need some guys that are willing to put their body on the line. Not that we don't. We do have guys that block shots. Darnell Nurse is leading it with 126, but we just need a little bit more help. Because I was actually quite surprised that Evan Bouchard is blocking more shots than Kulak. Evan Bouchard is your quarterback kind of player, your point shot guy. He should not be the guy to be, taking the block shots and putting his body on the line. We need him as the pillar behind the quarterback, the guy that going to get it to the forwards or take that, as we call it, the boost bomb. Anyway, enough of me rambling on the troubleshooting. That's what I think that the Oilers need to do, though, is get some guys that are willing to put their bodies on the line, and that does a lot for a team. When they see players willing to sacrifice like that, it really energizes the whole team, just like what we saw with Corey Perry in the scrap. All right, guys. Sorry for the zoomed in face on that. I don't know why it does that, but it did. So up next for the Oilers is back-to-back games tomorrow night and Saturday night as they take on the Minnesota Wild tomorrow night, a team that the Oilers always seem to have troubles with. And then the third meeting of the Battle of Alberta. And again, I do believe they are wearing those jerseys that they wore at the Heritage Classic. I believe for all the Battle of Albertas this year, they will be wearing those unis, which is awesome. I love those unis. Yeah, let's get into the breakdown of these two games. Okay, so they take on the Minnesota Wild tomorrow. This is a team that the Edmonton Oilers notoriously have their troubles. They're also likely to play Fleury, which is the goalie I want to see for the Edmonton Oilers going into the playoffs because he is clutch. I've made it publicly known I would like to see it, but right now it's not to be. And I do believe, I'll check that up on the next episode. I'll let you guys know the poll results, but I do believe Fleury was leading in the poll results. Believe it or not, I don't think Tanev was even voted for, but there was only 6 of you guys that voted so far. So we'll see what happens. Okay, let's take a look at this breakdown here. As the Oilers, last time that they met the Minnesota Wild, ended up getting a win, 4-3, December 8th. My birthday. 2000, maybe that's why they won, because it was my birthday. By a count of 4-3. Their record currently right now is 33-18-2. Meanwhile, Minnesota is 26-24-6. The home record for the Oilers is 17-6-2. Meanwhile, the Wild 12-13-2. The last 10, both are exactly the same with a 6-3-1 record, and they are both on a 1-game losing streak. Expected goaltenders is Philip Gustafsson. Okay, so they got Gustafsson. It looks like it's not going to be Fleury. His record 15-13-3 with a 3.27 goals against average and an 894 save percentage with 2 shutouts. Stuart Skinner, his record 25-12-2 with a 266 goals against average, 903 save percentage, 2 shutouts as well. One of the reasons why they may be playing Gustafsson is because Fleury is kind of being technically looked at, and there could be a deal in the works. So that's probably why Bill Guerin has Fleury probably sitting out. But then again, Fleury is kind of the backup role right now. So that, but I'm thinking that could very well be. Some of the stats that are impressive for the Minnesota Wild, like really, they're kind of middle of the pack. One of their best ones is they are tied for 12th for shooting percentage at 10.3. However, when it comes to penalty minutes, they're 29th, allowing 11.6 minutes per game. The penalty kill is 30th in the league, only at 74.5. So their penalty kill is not very good. They do need to address that because if the Oilers can get their power play going, it could be very, very problematic. As far as the Oilers go, for goals, they're 5th in the league, averaging 3.58 goals per game. 4th in the league for shots on goal. 4th in the league for power play. So offensively, it's the same old story. The Oilers are good offensively. Defensively, they have definitely changed their ways from the stretch between October 11th to November 11th. But they still kind of middle of the pack with exception to shots on goals allowed, which is 28. So they are pretty good at keeping it away. They just got to do a better job at maybe angling them off into the corners or something. And that's where a Tanev, I think, would help. And that's where a Savard, I think, would very well help. So we'll see if they can do something at the deadline to get something. I know Tanev is one of the number 1 trade targets, so there's going to be a high asking price for him. But we'll see what happens out of that. Then they go on to the Battle of Alberta. Game number 3. And yes, they are I believe they are wearing those unis that they wore at the Heritage Classic. Calgary is struggling this year, so they're kind of in sell mode. I mean, they're still within reach and grasp. But just before I popped onto this channel tonight, I was watching a little bit of the Bruins game because they're playing Boston tonight. And Markstrom went way out of the ice, cleared the puck, brutal play. And it went onto the Boston stick and just like, yeah, Calgary's a bit of a disaster. Which is, it's unfortunate because I like it when both teams are actually doing well because there's some really good, intense hockey going. If you remember a few years ago with Zach Kassian and Tkachuk and all that. So when both teams are going, it's very good. I do miss the Flames with Gaudreau and with Tkachuk and that. As much as I hated those guys when they would play them, the hockey was good. The hockey always was good. Anyway, let's go on to the stats for this one and what we need to look for. As it'll likely be Calvin Pickard in net for the Edmonton Oilers, as it is a back-to-back. His record is 7-2. He's got a pretty good record. 248 goals against average, 910 save percentage, 1 shutout against Jacob Markstrom. 18, 15, and 2, a 260 goals against average, 913 save percentage, and 2 shutouts. Currently, the Oilers, I already read the record for them. The Flames record is 26, 25, and 5. So they're just above 500, which is not enough to get you into the playoffs. Their away record is 13, 12, and 4. Last 10, 5 and 5. So they're on a 1-game winning streak. We'll see what happens tonight against Boston, but they could very well be on a losing streak when it's all done and said. What are the highlights for Calgary? 13th for faceoffs at 50.7. Oh, they're 5th on the penalty kill. They have a decent penalty kill at 82.7%. So that is the one highlight they have as a team, whereas the Oilers are 16th on the penalty kill. And a lot of that is from the early days when the first month of the season when they just were absolutely lousy. The last time they met, it was 3-1, January 20th. So we'll see if the Oilers can continue their winning ways and hopefully sweep the Calgary Flames when it's all done and said. I do believe their last matchup is like in middle of April, basically one of the last few games of the season. And we'll see if they can actually take the sweep. Well, first of all, they got to win on Saturday. This will be on Hockey Night in Canada. It'll be the late game, and it should be a decent game, I would hope. Everyone loves to see the Battle of Alberta. And we'll see what comes of that. All right, guys. Let's go into final comments. Doesn't appear to be any comments, so I am just going to move on to the subscriptions. If you're witnessing this channel for the very first time, guys, and you like the content that I bring, feel free to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. It would be much appreciated, as I am trying to build this channel up to being something of note. And to my followers that have been, as always, I do thank you for still supporting me. And try to spread out the word, you too, like you guys too, about my channel. It'd be really appreciative. I think you guys enjoy my content. Other than that, I think I'm done for tonight. We will see you Sunday when I recap both the Wild and Flames games. But other than that, I'm out of here, guys. You guys have a great evening.